Warning, Prospect Watch is not your average hockey podcast, and that's okay with us. Our goal is to introduce you to stars in the making from all over the world. They may not be household names yet, but we assure you they will be soon enough. Welcome to Prospect Watch. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of Prospect Watch with your host, Ron Mont, SteelFlyers. Hey, folks, how you doing? Man, I got to tell you what, we got an awesome show set off for you here to go, and we got a lot of things to get into, so let's just get right to it, okay? Hello and welcome to Prospect Watch, a podcast that focuses solely on discovery of young talent in the game today from all reaches of the world. Only this time, we don't have a talent with us. We got a talent coach with us this time. That's right, folks. We have been graced and honored with the great Bill Sullivan from Sullivan Hockey. Thank you, Bill, for joining us on the show. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So, for those of you who don't really know who Bill or Sully, as we like to call him, is, let's get you familiar with what's going on here. Sullivan Hockey is a video coaching and analyst service. Sullivan Hockey aims to enhance players' on ice awareness and creativity, production, and understanding of situational hockey. Sullivan Hockey dives into a player's individual game and attempts to help their strengths and improve upon their weaknesses via one-on-one attention and video analysis. I got to tell you something, folks. This guy has been doing this for all the right reasons, and he's doing it for all the right players out there. And I can't wait to get into some of these questions. So, what do you think, Coach? You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. So, the first question I got for you is this: how in the world did you start Sullivan Hockey?
Oh man, so I was lucky to play a little bit once upon a time. And
Okay.
I finished up with my college hockey career, and I moved to the big city in Queens, and then lived in and worked in New York, and then I found myself back here in Pittsburgh. Um,
Okay.
and I was lucky enough to start scouting for the London Knights as our American scout for the Eastern U.S.
Yep.
And
Yep.
as I kind of got into it, when you recruit, because scouting at the OHL at the time was much more recruiting than scouting, you start it really was. You start to build these relationships with the kids, not just the ones that you draft, but maybe other ones you were interested in.
Yep. Yep.
And you carry these relationships. And I started to do video with some of the guys a little bit here and there over the years. And then it just the video bug grabbed me a little bit. And then I really branched off from there in terms of what could be done and how I was going to teach. And I wish I had a more definitive way. Hey, here's what happened, but it just kind of blossomed over the last handful of years.
Okay. Okay. And so, how many years have you been doing this?
I'd say 5 or so years where I've taken on clients and been doing it. Not full time. I'm full time now, but I'd say 5 or 6 years of doing video with clients. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So now, how do how do the kids find you? I mean, how do these players find you? What's this process of how a player gets to come under your tutelage? I mean, like, do you travel to them? Do they come to you? How does this whole thing work?
Well, first and foremost, because I do scout still, for London in the OHL, I'm in the rinks a lot. Um, However, doing the video work, I also have to be sitting exactly where I am right now as well, so I can do all the videos. So it's a little bit of everything where I'm in the ring, so I get to know the kids coming up and their families and obviously their agents and representation. But
Right.
because I'm lucky enough to work with a number of the kids, I'm sure we're going to touch base on at some point, and the kids that I'm just blessed to be working with. I'm now not finding, but I'm now a lot of the agencies will come to me directly, and for guys who are upcoming, on the rare occasions, Maybe if I have a few spots left for a season, I will reach out to somebody I'm interested in. But the majority of how people or how we start working together is either organic, we just know each other through the rinks, or the agencies, set up an interview and we go from
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. So that I think that goes to say a lot about what you're doing, Sully. If you're having the agencies coming directly to you and you're not even having to reach out to these guys, right?
Oh, I lucked out. I lucked out. Just try to get along with people. And my dad always used to say it doesn't cost you a cent to be nice to people, right? So you try to be nice to people, and you get I find that I get along with people because of that. And
Yep.
not trying to be braggadocious or anything, but people like to interact and work with people they get along with.
Exactly. Exactly. And you kind of have to have that kind of personality to do what you do, right? You know what I
Eh,
mean? Like you got to be able to work with just about anybody because you're going to have a lot of guys coming to you and looking to you for, leadership and things of that nature. So let's do that. How do you motivate these players that you're coaching? I mean, I know these guys are all pretty much driven young men, but what are some of the ways you get them to accomplish their goals?
So every player is different. Goes without saying. I see myself as a corner man. I don't know if you're a boxing guy at all, but Angelo Dundee was a trainer. Customato was a trainer, and they had
Yep.
Ali and Tyson. I consider myself Boudini Brown, or Boudini Brown was the corner man for
Yep.
Ali. So when you come back to the corner, okay, he's splashing water for Ali. Lets him know he's the greatest. But if he's cut above the eye, he's got to sew him up. So to give you an example, if a player is doing great and they're averaging a point and a half a game, like let's look at why. I'm gonna splash water on them, let them know they're the champ, and get them back out there. Make sure they're feeling good and building them up and letting them know why they're having success. But what if they're lacking creativity on their entries, or their boots post pass are too stationary, or their initial
Yep.
touches in the wrong direction, or their passenger tendencies in the ozone? Now that's a cut above the eye that we got to stitch up a little bit. And then when they come back every time we meet, now we're just working on these different things and we focus on different things. But as you get to know the individual players, you get to know, does he need more rainbows pumped into him? Does he need a little stern fist? And
Yeah.
everybody is different.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so you get to spend enough time with these guys to get to that point with them.
Yes, the I if I could work with 100 guys, I would. There's only so many hours in the day, so
Right.
I can only work with so many players.
Yeah.
But because of that, I'm in there with them. I'm in the trenches. I don't miss a shift. Well, I'm not in the trenches per se. I'm sitting safely right here while they're in the trenches.
Right? Yeah.
Right. But I'm not missing anything.
Right.
If somebody brings me on, I'm with them the whole way through the year, and we're going to be in it together. And I meet with everybody a very good amount throughout the year. Not too much because they need time to work on the things we were going over, but it might be a little bit more at certain times, a little bit less at certain times. But because I can only take on so many players, I think it's a good thing for both them and me that we're all in it together for the year.
Exactly. And the fact that you're taking on just enough to where you can still, you know, spend that one-on-one time with each of those players to get them to where they need to go. You know what I mean? So you're not stretching yourself out and then at that point now you're cheating the guys, you know what I mean? Because you're stretched out, right?
That's right. That's right. You can't just be, at least in my opinion, I can't just be, I'm one person. And if, like
You
I said, if there was enough hours, I would, but I can't just take on guys for the sake of taking on guys. And I'm very thankful and blessed and everything now that I'm at a point where I get to be picky and choosy a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it makes it fun for me that I get to work with players that I enjoy watching. Like that's something that not everybody gets to do. If you coach a team, and I'm sure you get along with all your kids, maybe you don't, but I promise you, if you're a coach of a team, you don't enjoy everything everybody does at all the times, and neither do I, but I like these kids and
Yeah.
like the way they play, and we get along and we build that relationship. But it's a neat part of all this.
Awesome. And it's like you said before when we were talking off camera, it takes a village. It really does take a village for each one of these kids to get to where they need to go. I mean, it starts with their billet families. It starts with their own families for one.
Oh yeah.
You know, right? Then it starts with their billet families. Right then, all the coaches that they've had throughout their entire years. You know, all the junior hockeys that they played all the way up through. You know what I mean? So okay, so now this is the part where I'm really excited about. Okay, can you give me a list of players that you've trained in the past?
I can give you some many ways. So
Okay.
this week is the upcoming NHL draft. So kind of
Yes, sir.
stemming from the past few drafts, been lucky enough to yell at Trevor Connolly and Quentin Musty, who are first round picks of recent years. Blake
Congratulations.
Blake Montgomery and Aaron Manetian, who are high picks. Brandon Svoboda, Matt Mania.
Yes.
These are all guys who have gone in the past few NHL drafts. What I'm excited about is this upcoming draft. I joke with people I could work 100 years in hockey and I could never have a draft class like this again. That I'm lucky enough to work with these kids. Um, it's very it's neat. But the guys include James Hagens,
Yes.
Lyndon Lakovic, who I know you've had a conversation with,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
Billy Zonin, Shane Van Saggy, Henry
Yep.
Brestevich, Owen Martin, Liam Kilfoyle, who you've
Yep.
spoke with
He's
as
another
well.
Prospect Watch alum. Yep.
Great alum there. Will Sharp, Jordan Gavin, another alumni there.
Yep. Another Prospect Watch alum.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Diego Buttazzoni, it's a group that, like I said, I could work 100 years, and it just happened to happen this way. The guys that I had my '06 class, which was last year's draft, but I had a lot of guys who happened to be late birthdays in that group of kids I just named, so they're in this year's
Yeah.
draft. A few
Yeah.
'07s, and I fly out to LA on Thursday. And I cannot wait to just be a I consider the draft
Yeah.
graduation day for those guys. So I'm
Awesome.
excited.
And that's exactly what this is. You know, that's exactly what this culminates to. When you see these kids get their name called and they get to walk across the stage and grab that jersey and hold it up to the world. I mean, that's got to just make everybody in the village feel really good. You know what I mean? Right?
Oh, it's why you do it. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot more work that needs to be done after that, but it's one of those carrots you've had dangling in front of yourself since you were old enough to know what hockey is. And the fact that
Exactly.
we're there, and I literally just had a conversation 5 minutes before we got on with you with one of the kids I just named, and I was like, there's nothing you can do. There's no more you can do. Like there's
Yep.
no more overtime shift. There's no more big check. There's no more big apple you can get. So this next week, and when you're sitting at the Peacock Theater this week, just enjoy it. Have a
Yes.
smile on your face the whole time. There's nothing left to do. We're in enjoyment time, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. The work is going to come,
Oh yeah. Oh
right? The
yeah.
work's going to come, but you've done a lot of work, so you're at that point now where you can sit back and kind of enjoy some of the fruits.
Oh, absolutely. At least for a week or two.
Oh,
Then,
I
then
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
So, speaking of enjoying some of the fruits, I want to talk about some of, and you've touched on it a little bit too, with some of the players that you named that are going to be taken in this year's upcoming draft. But I know that you've had some successes, and I want you to touch on some of the one of the greatest successes that you've had. And if I recall correctly, it was this year with the London Knights winning the Memorial Cup, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. That was that one definitely tops the list, I'd say.
Congratulations, man! That is awesome, awesome.
Thank you very much, especially after the how last year kind of
Yep.
ended, and
Yeah.
it was they were on a mission, and I'm very lucky to be a microscopic part of that organization in a small way and be able to. I love being a part of a team. I know I teach individuals, but I always like being a part of a team and building and being in part of that environment. And I know we'll talk about it, but I've learned so much in London over the years, and that the emotions of winning a Memorial Cup, and to me that it's just one of the hardest trophies in sports to win. You have to go through a full, you
Yep.
know, best of seven, 4 round playoffs, and then you
Yep.
have to go to a tournament with the four best teams in the world in junior hockey. It just you need a lot of things need to go right, and not just that, but all the kids that and the staff, everybody that did everything in London and building up for these 3 or 4 years. That is something that it was one of the best experiences of my life, and I wish everybody could experience it. But that on the team level, that's going to be hard to top. From a looking at this selfishly, that question from a very narrow-minded
Yeah.
point of view, we touched on the draft. The draft is it's just it's so neat every year. There's nothing like it, and I'm lucky enough that this is the caliber of player that I'm lucky enough to work with,
Yep.
and that is graduation day, and just to
Yeah.
be there and see them, what they've been working their whole life for. All those guys that I named earlier who went through it every time. I don't care if they're picked first or second overall or 243rd overall. When I hear the guy's name and we spent countless hours right here on the Zoom going over things, and it culminated in their name getting selected by the
Yes.
NHL team. It is euphoric every time, and I absolutely can't even express. And then on a very specific example, just because you had him on, and Lyndon Lakovic. I've been lucky enough to work with Lyndon, for a number of years now, and he has blossomed and developed so much
Yes,
over
he
the past
has.
3 years. He is such a awesome young man, and he's
Yes.
matured, and he's done a number of things. But one of the specific things that I as a concept I teach called numbers versus non-numbers. Long story short, it's about entering the zone. And Lyndon has blossomed from a guy who I knew what he was going to be doing over the coming over the blue line. His decision making had a lot of room for improvement, and what he does coming over the blue line now, his creative entries, understanding when he has numbers versus non-numbers, and his escapes, and it's one of his biggest arsenal or weapons in his arsenal
Yes.
now. And the fact that we spent so many hours right here working on that specific thing, and to see him in
Wow.
his draft year for that to become one of his weapons, it's and I even asked him if it was okay for me to mention this because it was a very, I'm pumping his tires, but it's I can't say enough how he's developed and how this one particular area has kind of blossomed, and I'm very proud of him. So that's a neat win for us.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I recall him actually speaking of that in our interview
Yeah.
about how he views coming into the zone, because I believe that was one of the questions that we asked him, like, how do you enter the zone? What are you looking to pass? Are you looking to, what I mean? One of those kinds of things. And that was one of the things that he had talked about in his interview with us, that he very much was appreciative of what you were teaching him about how he now looks at things a little differently now when he comes across the blue line. So, I mean,
Well,
it,
I'm listen. There's it takes a village. There's a number of people who are always helping him. In this one particular area, it was just always a focal point, and he's done so well at it that like I have names of concepts, different things I go over with guys. I've renamed this concept the Lakovic rule because he's done it so well. So
There you go. All
yeah,
right.
pretty neat.
Hey, by the way, shout out to Lyndon Lakovic, by the way, the new Lakovic rule here at Sullivan Hockey. So check
Yeah.
that. Okay. Um, so we kind of touched on quite a few of the other questions that I had for you here, but there's one here that I do kind of want to get into, and I'm not really sure how to say this or what to do, but do you have to have some kind of education or certification to do what you're doing, or is this something that you've just developed over the years and just was able to just get to that point?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that the latter where I've
Okay.
developed over the years. I've had to figure out what's the best way to go about it in time, because like time is the biggest thing. I have to watch all these guys' shifts, then I have to chop it up, break it down, and then figure out which part I want to go over. Then I have to sectionalize that stuff. Like we could go over
Okay.
all the X's and O's of how I go about everything, but there's only so many hours in the day, right?
Right.
But no, I've kind of I have my process in now, um and there's no credentials per se, but being a sponge in the London Knights organization and what I've learned in the back coaching room of Dale Hunter's office with Mark Hunter and Rob Simpson, and just sitting
But
there.
by the way, covet those coaches because those are some really awesome people. By the way,
Oh, they don't make them too much better than
no, they don't.
and the knowledge that I've gained just by sitting in that back room, and the knowledge that passes through that office on a nightly basis, and just listening to people talk, because every time there's a game, the assistant general manager of the Rangers or the Panthers or everybody's in there, and then the area scouts, and then they go back there and they hang out for
Yep,
a little bit and they chat. And
yep,
yeah, I'm lucky enough to be in that world and take some of the information I've gathered over the years, not just from them, but other people in the hockey world as well. And then I kind of made the whole video process. I'm the one thing I'm very happy that I've done is that I've done it my own way and under my own umbrella. And whether I'm right or wrong, it's stuff that I developed with my guys. They helped me develop it, and
right,
it's ours, right or wrong. It's not me
exactly.
teaching somebody else's stuff.
Okay,
It takes here and there, but that's one thing I'm proud of.
awesome, awesome, and I think it shows. It shows in the players that you get to coach, and then it also shows in the goals that they've accomplished. Do you know what I mean? So
Sure.
clearly, you're doing something right, Sully. I mean, geez,
Hope so.
okay. So now, I know you kind of teach them about, you know, how to do things on the ice and everything else like that. But do you also kind of show them how to eat? Because I know that nutrition is a very important part of the development of the mind and the body. Is that something that you do, or is that something that they get from somewhere else?
No, so what's interesting is this is another thing. Once you as you go up the ladder and you're a part of an agency and a part of a team, this the nutrition, it will very much be under usually the team or the agency's umbrella. Now some
Okay.
specific video teaching groups or nutrition groups may work together, and I've actually had some conversations with people over the years. The one thing I can tell you in this area is a player that's up for the draft this year in Shane Van Sage, plays at
Yeah.
Michigan State. One of my, one of the best kids. I've known him for years, and they don't, great family. The importance of Shane's discovery of the nutritional part of his journey to try to be a professional hockey player, it cannot be under not underestimated, but under, I'm lacking the word here. It has been so crucial and so important in his development to figure out the best way to maintain his body throughout the year. And it's an interesting area that I'm still continuing to learn more about. But for Shane specifically, just where he's developed to now from where he was when he was in St. Louis playing U14 and U16, and we used to talk about, hey, he's a power forward. You have to, we got to find your contact every shift, find contact, find
Yep.
contact.
Yep.
Early on in the program, not for a number of reasons, he's getting adjusted to junior hockey when he was at the U.S. national team, but he was fine. He was having some trouble doing that. And thinking back to that, to where we are now, where he's at Michigan State, and that almost seems funny to say because he finds his piece of meat
Yeah.
every single shift, no matter what. And that's why he's going to be so coveted by NHL teams.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing all that up because it stems back to the nutritional part of everything, and how important it is because he's able to keep his body up and going enough to be able to find that contact.
Yep. Yep. And then withstand it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, look, let's face it, when you're out there making contact, you're exerting a lot of energy yourself. Do you
Oh,
know what I mean? And so that's very good to be able to have that nutrition to fall back on it.
there's
And
nothing healthier than being a power forward. I mean, two-way defenseman and a goalie, but being a power forward, in my opinion, that just where it is on the mind, and
yep,
what you have to do, because you have to be good enough to make plays with the puck, and you have a lot to do, but you have to go and hurl your body into people for every
exactly,
shift, and it's difficult to do. So that's why they're so coveted, because those guys are few and far between now.
exactly. So I got to tell you something, man. So this is my last questions
Okay.
here for you, okay? And we already kind of you really kind of already answered this, but because you spend a lot of time with him, it's not all just about hockey. It's about life, right? Like you said, it takes a village. You know what I mean? So, do some of the guys come to you about some of their personal problems and stuff? Do you get to that point where you get to talk to them about some of those kinds of, I mean, look, hockey is life for them, and they need that time to, smell the roses, but they also need that shoulder to lean on, so to speak. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I do. And I think it's a good question. And I think that's the majority of what I do. I'm not a therapist or, psychiatrist or anything like that.
Well, you
But
didn't realize you were going to be a video editor and a psychologist at the same time, right?
well, right. That's right. Definitely a version of that. But I'm here. I always say, I tell the guys whenever I'm, starting to get to know them a little bit, because at the beginning of the relationship, it's a lot of me talking. And then as we go, hopefully they start to go more and more. But in our first Zoom call, I always tell them, I'm here to BS with you. I am here to talk hockey and talk whatever you want to. Send me a clip of this, send a clip of that. Yes, we do videos every so often in this amount, but a lot of guys should have interaction. We do have interaction almost every day. They snap me a picture of what they did in the gym, or they're watching this show. And everybody's different. There's guys that I speak to more and less, like by the, not to bring
Yeah.
them up again, but like without me looking at my phone, I'm positive I'll have a message from Lyndon Lakovic just in the time we've been talking, right? Because that's,
Okay.
we chat a good bit, right? But um, my whole thing is to keep their confidence up.
Yes.
I am their corner man, and I
Yep.
need them to know that
Love it.
they're the greatest, and be positive energy, but also let them know when they suck in a productive way, right?
Yeah, there you go.
But you got to be positive. and
Yep.
and we go over everything, but at the end of every Zoom I want them walking away feeling like, okay, I got something new, I got some energy, or okay, now I know why I did that.
Yep.
I'm a relationship guy, and I'm lucky enough to, again, not to keep using that term, but I built this thing into where this is what I do for my living now, and I take it very, very serious. And I'm helping
Sure.
these guys in a very
Good.
microscopic way, but I'm there whether they need to, just talk about their creative entries or their play off the puck, or if they just need to not talk hockey for a day too. So
Yeah.
it's nice to, again, corner man, that's how I
Yep.
see myself. Everybody's
I love
gonna
it.
see that in a different way.
I love the analogy, by the way. I love the analogy because I'm definitely a boxing enthusiast. Muhammad Ali was definitely one of my faves.
Yeah.
I got to meet Leon Spinks, and I got to meet Joe Frazier.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, definitely a boxing guy. So I know what a corner man is. So you definitely hit the nail on the head for that one right there too.
Need a
So
good corner man, no doubt.
well, so I can't thank you enough for being on the show
Oh,
and
thank you
giving
for
our
having me.
viewers some great insight on some of these players, and all the things that you do and help them realizing their dream of playing hockey for a living. I think we put a lot of information out there, and I really feel that this is a very valuable service that you provide. And we've spoken to a lot of some of the same players, and I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to what you're going to do here and how you're going to encourage these guys moving forward. And why don't you tell the folks how they can find you and where they can reach you, Sully?
Yeah, no problem. So sullyhockey.com, SULLY hockey.com is my website, and from there you can find all the, kind of general basis on everything I do. Billy Sullivan Hockey on Instagram and on Twitter as well. Pretty straightforward on the social media with those two accounts, and then
Yep.
YouTube. Every single guy I work with has all, I keep their highlight reels throughout the year, so there's a
Yeah.
number. If you're interested in any of those guys on YouTube, we got plenty of video for them to watch. And then, that's where you can find me. And listen,
Awesome.
thank you very much for having me on. It's always
Oh
fun
man.
to talk hockey, and thank you for talking to prospects so we can listen to it.
Awesome, for sure. It's an honor to have you on, Sully. We will have all of Sully's information and links here in the description. By the way, the show will be scrolling his website, so you'll be able to check out his website as well too. So we'll have all his links and everything in the description and everything. Please hop on over to Twitter and give him a follow for sure. And any players out there, you guys need some coaching, hit him up because he's definitely the main man, pots and pans, for sure, for sure. I'm your host, Ron SteelFlyers, and this has been another episode of Prospect Watch. And we would like to say thank you all very much for checking us out, and we'll catch you all on the next one.